What's going on, Facebook? Is this your boy once again, John, the Date Dr. Clark, and I'm coming into you live. And I got something I want to get off my chest for my people. A lot of the times I see in my private practice, a lot of times I see on social media, a lot of times I see in daily conversations where we see a lot of guys that are refusing or neglecting to take the lead. But a lot of times we see where maybe the female is refusing to allow them. So the topic I have for you all today is the reason she won't let you lead. So think about it this way. I'm gonna go over about 3 or 4 different reasons as to why she may not let you lead. And it may not be a let per se, but I'm gonna go over those 3 notions. First one, trust. Think about it. If you don't trust something or someone or the position of it, usually it means that that person has shown you other reasons. That person has shown you reasons to believe that you probably wouldn't be able to trust them. You probably shouldn't be able to trust them, and you probably shouldn't be in a relationship with them. So going over the first thing, more so with the trust. A lot of times, when you see a lot of women that may not trust their man or their woman to lead them, is because they've given a reason that shows that they couldn't possibly be a leader. They're given a reason to say that they should always be an employee. I'm gonna say it again, just in case one of y'all missed it. Sometimes you see women that are in relationships with guys or other females, and that other person is displaying signs of only being an effective follower, or maybe they're displaying signs of only being an effective guider, or maybe they're only showing effective signs of having to kind of follow suit more so with you, and they're not displaying those signs. It seems as though they would be a great leader or an effective leader. So when you're in that type of relationship, or when you're in that type of marriage, the trust to be led by them is going to be pretty much slim to none. So if you think about it, imagine being in a relationship or a marriage and you really don't trust your significant other. Maybe he or she has cheated on you. Maybe there's been some infidelity type things going on, or maybe there's been a lot of dishonesty, a lot of deceit, and a lot of things that have kind of rubbed you the wrong way. That kind of makes you think, I don't know if I can honestly trust this particular person. So with that being said, going over number one, a lot of times we may see a lot of women that don't feel comfortable in allowing their man to lead the relationship, allowing their man to lead the marriage, and allowing this man to kind of lead them into a better place of spirituality. And the reason being is that obviously she doesn't trust him, and or he's not displaying any type of reasons that shows that he can be trusted in order to lead this type of establishment. That's number one. So that goes over the trust factor. Number two, a lot of times we see a lot of females that are in relationships, and unfortunately they've kind of been brought up in different type of households where abuse has gone on, neglect has gone on, single motherhood is kind of going on, or maybe single fatherhood is kind of going on, and they've seen their parents struggle. They've seen them growing up having to do everything on their own. They've seen the benefits, the downfalls, the upsets, the disgruntled establishments when it deals with someone having to do everything on their own. And we kind of know the feeling. We know the feeling when we're struggling with something. We know the feeling when we have that lack of understanding. We know the feeling when we feel as though we cannot depend on anyone else. We know the feeling when we're struggling with something to the point where we've desired to give up. We know the feeling when we have to exhaust every available option by ourselves to try to make this thing work. Ladies and gentlemen, we know the feeling. We know that feeling of that unsuccessful / successful upbringing where we've had to do each and everything on our own. So imagine getting into a relationship, and now you've kind of developed that mentality of being independent. Now you develop that mentality of having to do everything on your own. Now you develop that mentality of you shouldn't depend on a man or a woman. Now you develop that mentality that it's all about you. Now you develop that mentality that now that you have this other person that's in your circle, you have to be the leader. You have to be independent. You should not depend on this person. You should do everything on your own. And ladies and gentlemen, when we have that mentality, when we haven't tweaked some of those signs and symptoms, it kind of adds that fuel to the fire. It kind of adds frustration, it adds tension, it adds toxic. And when we bring that into the relationship, when we bring it into the marriage, it kind of leads us to a place of destruction if that other party isn't aware of it, or if the other party isn't as comfortable, or if he or she is comfortable. Sometimes they can still kind of bring that tension. So we have to be mindful. And there's some other thing that kind of brings us a part of the upbringing, such as the abuse, such as neglect. Sometimes when a person has been exposed to so much infidelity, or in other words, cheating, sometimes when a person has gone through multiple marriages or multiple relationships where they've seen nothing but deceit, they've seen nothing but lies, they seem nothing but frustration and anguish. Of course, society says, or some of the best quotes will say, try your best to work out some of that baggage, or try not to bring some of the animosity from that relationship to the next. But if you think about it, we're in the real world now. This is reality. I don't care what happens. I don't care who tells you this, who tells you that. A lot of times we're going to bring some of those unfortunate/fortunate things from a previous relationship to our current. I mean, it's just kind of who we are as people. But we do have that ability to tweak it. We do have that ability to kind of suppress some of those feelings, to kind of suppress some of those feelings that kind of stayed there in the past, so we don't allow it to kind of get to us in the future. And we have to be mindful of that. So with that being said, trust is kind of one of those things that kind of makes the average woman not want to trust you. The second thing is sometimes her upbringing can kind of bring her into a terrible place of mind. Sometimes it can bring her to a very unfortunate place of mind. Sometimes the exposure to neglect, the exposure to the abuse, whether it's sexual, emotional, spiritual, those types of abuse. Sometimes, some of the things that she's kind of seen in her household, whether it's seeing her parents struggle, whether it's seeing her father do everything on his own, or whether she's seen her mother do everything on her own. Or sometimes she may have seen both parents being involved in like domestic violence type relationship. So we kind of have to be mindful of some of those things. And of course, let me just kind of view my notes real quick. So yeah, those are some of the things that we tend to see in those relationships, such as single parenthood. And those are some of the things that we have to be mindful of. So number 3. There's a third reason as to why she may not even trust you. The third and final thing is maybe you just don't want to be the leader, and maybe you've given her every reasonable option to show that you don't want to be an effective leader. So if you're not showing her those signs, and it kind of coincides with number 1, if you're not showing her those signs, and if you're not showing any type of desire to want to be an effective leader, if you're not showing any signs that she should be willing and ready and capable and able to follow you, then of course, why would you expect anything else? How dare you get into an argument? How dare you start random things if you're not displaying or showing any type of sign that kind of shows that you want to be an effective leader, especially if you've verbally kind of stated that you would rather not be an effective leader. And sometimes you got to be mindful of some of those people that prefer not to be that way. From a negative point of view, sometimes it can be one of those babyers, or those that kind of consist of being, pacified. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with admitting that you may not want to be an effective leader. But if you're making that type of notion, you still need to find ways to kind of contribute to your relationship, contribute to your marriage that's not going to be detrimental to your marriage, as opposed to beneficial. And that kind of coincides with some of the other things that I kind of practice about in my practice, and that's understanding our strengths and our weaknesses. Sometimes when we're dealing with people that are struggling to have effective leadership goals, or to be effective leaders in their marriages or relationships, I kind of educate them on, if you don't feel comfortable fulfilling that particular role, let's kind of start off with the baby steps. One of those baby steps consists of learning and understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses. So say if your wife is more comfortable and more financially equipped with the finances in the home, I know society tells us that man should be equipped with all that, but what if you're not? So what do we do? So what it would do is we kind of focus on her strengths. If her strengths are to manage the bills, financial stability, then allow her to take that role, to take that lead. But of course, as the guy, or as the head of you all's marriage, or the head of you all's relationship, kind of be the foreseer of that. Kind of make the final decision and say, okay, well, this is the route that we're going to take. Even though she was the initial person that kind of did all the legwork, you still have that position. You kind of still have that role. So if you think about it, the average attorney nowadays, or the average doctor nowadays, isn't really doing the majority of the work. The majority of the work is being done by the PA. The majority of the work has been done by the legal secretary or the paralegal. So just kind of think about it. So with that being said, I kind of want us to steer away from like the titleship and all those feeling entitled type things. The main thing is, what it boils down to is, your woman isn't following you. She's not following you because obviously you've given her reason as to why you can't be trusted. Another reason is that unfortunately, she's been exposed to some of the things in her lifestyle that kind of points the finger to say that she cannot follow you, and therefore she should be the breadwinner, the independent person, the therapist for herself, the psychiatrist for herself. And unfortunately, that's a lifestyle that a lot of women and men are going through right now as we speak. And we kind of have to nip some of those things in the bud. If we notice that we're going through these type of lifestyles, what can we do to kind of protect perfect our lifestyle? What can we do to kind of embrace us who we are? What can we do to be more social? What can we do not necessarily be submissive or depending on other people, but what can we do to be more codependent? What can we do to be more loved? What can we do to fit into that wifey category? What can we do to kind of fit into those roles and those responsibilities? And we have to be mindful of those things. And I'm not just going to pinpoint the women out there that are unfortunate / fortunate in that lifestyle, but sometimes you have a lot of men that are exposed to some of those same type of features. And we have to be mindful of some of those things. And the last and final thing that I kind of piggybacked on was the third thing of he just kind of stating that he doesn't want to be the leader, and he's allowing her to be the lead. And of course, if he's going to do that, if he's verbally going to acknowledge that, if he's giving consent to do that, he needs to be mindful of his role. He needs to be more focused on his strengths and his weaknesses. And we have to be mindful of some of those things. But ladies and gentlemen, this is your boy, John the Date Dr. Clark. And we just kind of touched on the basis of some of the reasons as to why she's not going to let you lead. And of course, we went over the trust. We went over sometimes her unfortunate baggage or unfortunate upbringings. And the last and final thing was a matter of the guy just kind of verbalized that he doesn't want to be that leader. He would rather be the pacifier. He would rather be the person that kind of allows her to do everything on his own. And we kind of have to be mindful of that. But if you take that third cause or that third lead, you need to be aware of your strengths and your weaknesses so you can contribute, so it can decrease the chance of it causing more issues in a relationship or the marriage. All right, good people, feel free to follow me at The Date Doctor on social media. Feel free to look at my website, www.datedoctor.com. All right, good people, feel free to share this video, and I'm out.